Alright guys, so Survivor Series has come and went. A lot of people are saying that this wasn't a bad show. I'm not going to say that it was a bad show. Don't get me wrong, but this was not a good show. Look, I understand that there is a big portion of people that want wrestling, WWE specifically, to be like NXT. They feel that Triple H has the right idea. I feel that Triple H has the wrong idea. I've talked extensively on this channel how I feel that Triple H is bad for business, as some would say. God, I hate that term. I can't believe that that's actually caught on, that people mimic Triple H and the authorities saying this is what's best for business. Everything that they said that was best for business was bad for business, and it shows. So we had this show, and the majority of the matches was won by NXT. So, the fanboys are happy. Wade Keller liked this show. I'm sure Meltzer enjoyed this show as well. The only thing that I'm sure that Meltzer is not going to be happy with is the fact that, Johnny Garganzo Beans wasn't on it. So, God forbid, right? So, let's talk about this show. I skimmed through this show. I did not watch the whole thing. I skipped the Intercontinental, United States title, North American title, triple threat match, because those matches didn't mean anything. So what I did is I focused on 3 matches, and then I skimmed through the main event, and we'll get to that in a moment. So let's talk about the first match that I actually watched at full length. Didn't fast forward or anything. I went through all the entrances and everything. But I know they came in as groups. For the tag match. So that's the only thing that I really fast forward. So if anything happened backstage I don't think anything significant happened backstage. So the first thing that I watched on here was Daniel Bryan and The Fiend. The Fiend defeated Daniel Bryan as expected. This was a pretty good match. I enjoyed it. There was what you would come to expect. The Fiend, dominated most of the match, as he should. Bryan, started mounting some comebacks. He started no-selling the kicks, and I'm gonna say something right now. There's a few things here that I want to point out that I didn't like about this match. On the majority, I like this match. I think that I thought that it was good. Bryan and Bray have always worked well together. The last time I think that they actually worked together was the Royal Rumble 2014, which a few people were bringing up. That was a great match. I still remember reviewing that match and enjoying it a lot, even though that went nowhere. But much like this is, I feel like this is the end of this storyline. I don't see where else they could go with it. The Fiend emphatically beat Bryan. Bryan was done. There's nowhere that they could really go with this, so that's pretty much the end of it. So Bray locks him in the mandible claw, holds him down, gets the 3. So what didn't I like about this match? First of all, I'm really getting sick of wrestlers spamming moves on Bray. And I know this is only the second time that this has happened. I didn't watch the match that he had with Finn Balor, but I don't think that I don't think Balor even got too much offense in that SummerSlam match that they had. But you know what I'm talking about, with Seth Rollins hitting the curb stomp 13 times on him. Well, Bryan hit the yes kicks on him, and he did the roundhouse kick on him 3 times, and and Bray kept getting back up, and it's monotonous. I don't like watching that. It's okay, if the move didn't keep him down the first time, that's enough. Move on to something else. And the other thing is, I don't like the neck snap move. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the previous video, but I've watched it since Hell in the Cell, and I don't like that move, because we all know in real life, if you snap someone's neck, they're dead, right? That's it. You've broken their neck, they're dead. Okay, so doing this move is just a little bit too much. I understand that the Fiend is supposed to be psychotic and evil, and it's associated with death. But there's no need to stimulate a fatal move like a neck snap in the ring. I know it's going to sound like nitpick Brad, it's fake. Come on, I know, I understand, but it's not something that I want in the match. It doesn't need to be there. It's going a bit too far. We had I actually watched this out of order, by the way, because I was skipping around. But the next thing that I watched in chronological order was the triple threat elimination match, or whatever they were calling it. It was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And the way this match was formatted with, there was a lot of quick eliminations. It was fun to watch. Oh, God, did I really just say that? I just channeled Michael Cole. This is fun to watch! Anyway, but, it was. It gave me a chance to see these NXT guys that I don't normally watch. So, what did I think? It was, confusing to say the least. Okay, I talked about this on SmackDown, on the SmackDown review that I did. This was all over the place. Now, when there was action, they kept it going. There was never really any dead spots in the match. But the problem with this was, as I said, this felt more like it was WWE versus NXT. But it was a triple threat match. But they were doing this in a very odd way. During the match, I'm not sure if anyone noticed or if they skimmed around as well. There was a point where Kevin Owens, he did he attacked somebody, and then he did a cannonball into Roman Reigns at ringside. For some reason, I don't know if Roman Reigns legitimately got hurt or injured or something like that, but he seemed fine later on in the match. I don't know if he, got knocked silly or something like that. But he stayed on the outside of the ring, and it got to a point where he was like missing for 10 minutes. And I remembered the spot, and I was like, is he really like selling that move for that long? Or he has to be hurt. But then there were other points in the match where I remember SmackDown and NXT were in there, and no one was coming in for Raw. And Michael Cole described this as no one was stepping up for Raw. So there were these periods where I felt like they almost forgot that this was supposed to be a three-way match. And you had to notice it during the match because it was pretty evident. There were many instances where they weren't doing three-way stuff. And this was due to the fact that there were way too many people in this match. There were 15 people involved. This was nuts. And everything was a triple threat, basically. Now, I don't think that they've ever done this before. Not on the main roster anyway, but this really didn't work out the way they probably planned it. And they also told a terrible story, too. Because if you were looking at TV up until, say, SmackDown, though I didn't watch Raw, so it was the last week anyway, for the build for Survivor Series, this looked more going into it like it was more WWE versus NXT. Raw wasn't being as invasion-y as SmackDown. As Raw coming into SmackDown, right? They left the gate open for NXT, not for Raw. So going into it, you got this sense like this was more a war against NXT and not just a war on the brands. And this whole thing is just stupid anyway. So I'm just left here with my brain cells fading away quickly. But at the end, it comes down to Keith Lee and Roman Reigns. And Seth Rollins got pinned by Keith Lee, by the way. You had Tabasco sauce in there. Someone got eliminated really quick that really surprised me. They actually let Matt Riddle eliminate Randy Orton, which is like totally random. And then Randy Orton hits him with the RKO, for payback, and then he ends up getting pinned by somebody. And then at the end you have Roman Reigns hitting the spear on Keith Lee. That was a nice little exchange at the end. A lot of people are hyping up Keith Lee. Keith Lee is a big guy and everything, but going into this, if Keith Lee was going to be the main focus, what do we know about Keith Lee? Now, I'm all about, guys looking like they belong, and, Keith Lee does, but, give me a reason to care. Going into this, do you guys realize, all this heat with Matt Riddle and him hating on Goldberg and everything like that, these guys, they have a lot to say, right? They're big mouths. These guys are not shy to voice their opinions. Where was this on the show? Even when Matt Riddle was interacting with Sami Zayn 2 weeks ago, he didn't say a peep. He said 1 or 2 words, if anything. So, where was that Matt Riddle? I get it. These are great wrestlers, so we're supposed to be excited based on that. No, I'm sorry. I'm not excited based on that. First of all, I'm not looking forward to this show. I don't really want to watch this. So, give me a reason at least. Present me with some characters that are appealing, that are going to make me want to watch them wrestle. But no, we don't get that. So, Roman Reigns is the fist bump with Keith Lee. So, after this, everyone's just going to go back to NXT. We're going to go all our separate ways. And, then we're going to just continue on, right? What's next? TLC? Is that the next pay-per-view? So then we're going to just move on to that, basically. And we're going to, forget about, any of this happened. Then we have Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar beats Rey. This match was okay. You had a run-in from Dominic, from Rey's son. They hit frog splashes on Brock. They do a double pin. Brock kicks out. He hits an F5 on Rey. That's the end of the match. This is a match where I feel like it just came and went. It was decent. I enjoyed watching it for what it was. The run-in with Dominic was a nice little touch. But, at this point, I feel like they really messed up Rey Mysterio. This guy has been with them now for an entire year, and they haven't done a single thing with the guy. He's literally actually been on the contract, I think, for 2 years. But they have decided to do nothing with Rey Mysterio. And then at the last minute, they were like, oh, okay, let's give him a title match. This is the same thing that they were doing with Jeff Hardy. Wasting months and months of possibilities. And the thing that kills me about, talented legends like Rey Mysterio, or a guy like Jeff Hardy, I understand he's not here, but I'm just making a comparison. These are guys that are so much better than almost everyone else you have on the roster. These guys already have an established, personality. They already have, a massive fan base amongst them. So you don't even need to do any work. These are guys that basically sell themselves. But and it's month after month, they have nothing. Creative has absolutely nothing for them, and they waste so many months and so much time doing nothing with them, as other people are not getting over. And I know that that's creative's fault, and it might be the creative's fault as well. But I'm just saying it's too little, too late. All of a sudden, okay, Rey's a main eventer. He's been doing absolutely nothing. If I have to think back in my head, I don't even know what Rey Mysterio has been doing the past few months. They, random matches, speaking for Cain Velasquez, and I hear that Cain Velasquez is currently, training to be a wrestler. It's unbelievable. He's already had a match at a big time pay-per-view, and now he's training to be a wrestler. Doing things backwards, completely backwards. And, okay, so now that we talked about that, let's move on to the main event. They still have not learned their lesson They still haven't learned their lesson after WrestleMania. We're still going to put the women in the main event. The only difference here is you don't have somebody big like Ronda Rousey to sell the event. To sell the match. You don't have Charlotte in there. Instead, you get like a bargain bin version of the WrestleMania match. And it's not like, it's not like the WrestleMania match was some great high-class match. By bargain bin match, I just mean that there was no Ronda Rousey, there was no Charlotte, there was no one good in this match. It's basically, I was looking, I have said that I do like Shayna Baszler's toughness, but going into this match, that wasn't there. She already got one-upped by Bayley on SmackDown, already ruining that mystique. So you've got Cringey Lynch in there, you've got Bayley, and you've got Shayna Baszler. And Shayna Baszler locks Bayley in the rear naked choke, and that's the match right there. So, we end it. So, I need to ask a question. If the whole selling point of this show is supposed to be WWE, NXT, versus, or Raw versus SmackDown versus, NXT in theory, even though when they did the match, it actually felt like it was WWE versus NXT. With that in mind, wouldn't you have made that match the last match? But instead, they got to do the forced thing that they always do. Oh, guys, it's all about the women. It's all about the women's revolution. And we are still selling this idea. Despite the fact that the ratings are in the toilet, they're on Fox and they still can't garner a decent rating. They know that the women don't work. That this does not work for them. Do you see more females flocking to the product since you've been pushing this? No, you've actually been seeing less. So, and it's not like the males that are leaving, in terms of viewership, are being replaced by women. So it's a complete and total failure. This needs to stop. Triple H and Stephanie don't know what they're doing. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea for the last 100th time. It's not a good idea. And they keep doing it. The definition of insanity is repeating the same mistake over and over and expecting a different result. You know what? You are getting a slightly different result because every week the ratings are dropping. So there is a slightly different result. But you're still doing it under the impression that you're going to get a positive reaction. Look, this is wrestling. I've said it time and time again. You're not going to be well respected. These sportscasters on Fox do not think that this is a legitimate sport because it's not a legitimate sport. Wrestling, especially now, is hokey. It's a joke. You're doing like the 24/7 stuff, and you expect like everyone to be like, oh, wrestling, this is a part of Americana. No, that's not how it is. You're never going to get wrestling to the status of football or baseball. They were there at one point, but they were doing really good material. It was called the Attitude Era. Or back in the 80s with the Rock and Wrestling connection. That was a totally different story because they were going about it in a different way. The way they're going right now, you're not going to gain mass appeal. So stop it. It doesn't matter if you go to Saudi Arabia, if you push the women. And I know that you deep down feel that you're causing a revolution. No one is even watching. You're causing a revolution when you can't even get. You can't even consistently keep 2 million viewers watching. Sometimes you can't even get 1.5 million viewers to watch consistently. So you're telling me that you're causing a revolution? It's not a revolution. It's a sham. It's just a bad show. And you've got all these people making excuses for it. Oh, it's DVR. Guys, if the show was good, you wouldn't be DVRing it. You'd be watching it live. You know, there's people who DVR football games, yes. But you look at like the Nielsen rating or whatever it is, and guess what? People are watching it. How come you have like 30 million people watching football for some reason? And they're watching that on live TV. But you're not getting those numbers for SmackDown. You're not getting it for Raw. You're sure as hell not getting it for NXT or AEW. So I need to ask the question, when are we going to stop with the excuses and admit that this is bad content? It's not a good show. It's not a good time for WWE. In any way you slice it, you can make all the excuses in the world. This is a different time in wrestling. Or, you know, it's a different time in wrestling. So, like I said, there is so much potential for storylines. There's social media. There's so many different ways that you could sell this business. And it's missed opportunity after missed opportunity because they still want to go about making this a hokey, wacky, goofy show. And none of that is being done in a good way. Anyway, guys, there's your review. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post all my new videos. And guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.